There's kind of 5 aspects of us that we kind of just want to become aware of. Our 5 levels of experience in life. I'm going to talk through them very simplistically, and then hopefully you're going to be able to relate to them. Some of them might be a first, depends on how aware you are of yourself. And the reason why this is important is because when a person is telling you about an experience that they've had, they're telling you about the experience they've had from their perspective that might not necessarily be completely balanced, completely grounded, completely holistic, or complete. All right, so when we understand the human experience, when we understand our own levels of experience, we can sometimes then better identify the kind of questions we can ask other people to help them and enable them to share more aspects of their experience, perhaps from perspectives they've never considered, which can bring more life and fullness to any relational interaction. If you want to be found fascinating by other people, if you want to be found to be interesting, if you want to be seen as a kind of person that people just want to spend time with, do you think that you kind of need to develop some really, suave or sharp or fine-tuned set of communication skills? Do you think that's what it is? Come on, that's what many people will suggest. There's a lot of books out there, a lot of training courses. Just develop a set of communication skills and just your relationships will go well. Your relationships and the health of your relationships have nothing to do with your communication skills. The health of your relationships have everything to do with how fascinated you are in other people. You're either fascinated in people or you're not. And if you are fascinated in people, this will result in you not exercising communication skills, but instead asking people questions about their experience. Why? Because people just want to be understood. In the same way you love to spend time with people who are interested in understanding you, other people will bend over backwards to spend time with people who are interested in understanding them. So if you want to be found interesting, then become interested. If you want to be found fascinating, then become fascinated. All right, there's no way around this. It's as simple as this, I promise you. So, but what is it we become interested in? What is it we can become fascinated by, Kay and I, hear you ask? Great question. Now you're asking some smart questions, all right? So let's break this down. Because a person will have an experience. And we experience our experiences on 5 different levels. First level, physically, our physical experience. Say, for example, you were to get stung by a wasp, or someone was to stand on your foot. All right, what would you feel? You would feel physical pain. Would you feel heartache or hurt or angst once a bee or a wasp has stung you? Someone stands on your foot, right? What would you feel? It's physical pain, that's it. Might physical pain trigger something else? Yeah, of course it would, all right? Right, so first and foremost, we understand that physical pain is physical pain, but it's separate and apart from our emotional experience, right? I'm just talking about physical pain here. Someone could tickle you, and if someone tickles you, unless you hate being tickled, right, you're going to feel hoo-hoo, you're going to feel happy. Hoo-hoo, tickle me. All right, so if someone's tickling you, you're going to feel happy. If someone's stamping on your foot or jabbing you in the side, you're going to feel pain, you're going to most likely not feel so happy. So again, physical pain can have a knock-on effect on our emotional experience. Share with you a story here. Maybe back in the year 2000, I think it was, I was in the military. I was serving over in Oman. It was a military training exercise where the British and the American were kind of testing all of their equipment and vehicles and all this kind of thing. And there was these like black hornets over there, and one day I'd been stung off this black hornet on my arm, and it was so painful. And I've got a pretty high tolerance for pain, so my arm was absolutely throbbing. So back then, I had one of my friends, a guy called Geordie. Friends, I'll use the term loosely. I said, "Oh my goodness!" My eyes were streaming. I wasn't just kind of crying because I was sad. I was like, I was so sore. I was holding my arm there, and I couldn't focus on anything else. It was so painful. And I saw Geordie and I said, oh my goodness, I've been stung by this black hornet. Oh, I feel sick, it's so sore. And he said, oh, let's have a look. Let's have a look. And he had a look and then he slapped me. And then I reacted. Between stimulus and response, there's a gap. In that gap, we have our capacity to choose. I didn't choose anything. I just emotionally reacted. And I was angry. I was livid. All right? The physical pain, when he intentionally done everything he could to make that worse, I literally became enraged. Gah! And then I blew up and then I done something that I didn't later regret it. We kind of kissed and made up. Well, we didn't kiss because, that's not what guys do back then, in the day anyway. Yeah, we got over that one. That was absolutely fine. But you can see the difference between the physical and the emotional. There's another little part of that story that's really quite interesting. And this is that that hornet, right? That hornet stung me on the arm. My arm was so sore. But I didn't give the hornet any second thought because I was focused on the pain. But see, when Geordie kind of slapped my arm, right, I became enraged at him. It's interesting sometimes how in life we will end up becoming more angry at those who slap our bee stings than at the bees who first sting us. Take from this what you will. What do I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm talking in riddles. We have a rational experience in life, a rational experience. So our physical experience is kind of like the outer ring of our experience. Our emotional life is kind of where, yes, many people get stuck in emotions. Many emotional people in the world today. How do we overcome emotions? We overcome emotions by bringing structure to our minds and developing reason, right? Thinking things through rationally. What is the smartest way to respond to this? What is the wisest, most mature response I could have to this bee sting, to this social experience that I'm having, to this situation at work? When we think things through and we reason. Between stimulus and response, there's a gap. Sorry if I'm being repetitive. In fact, no, I'm not. Right, what is the gap? The gap is our volitional experience is our ability to choose, right? It's the choice we have in any given moment to determine our next steps. Speaking up, staying quiet, stepping up, stepping down, moving forward, moving back. It's entirely up to us. It's all choice. It's the only part of our life that we actually have any control over. Our choices. It's why it's called free will. A lot of people go through life saying, but I just want more freedom. Thinking that if they get more money, if they get a better paid position, they're going to have more freedom. It doesn't work like that. All right, we're either slaves to our thinking or we're not slaves to our thinking. And the more aware we become, the less we become enslaved to our thinking. And what is slave-like thinking? It's in absolutes. Good, bad, right, wrong. So we have a rational experience and we're either thinking in absolutes, good, bad, right, wrong, or rationally we're seeking to understand our experiences. We're looking at life through the eyes of fascination. We're looking at people through the eyes of fascination. So what could I have done differently back with Geordie? Well, he slapped me on the wrist. Was his intention really to cause me pain? Or was it, just something that guys sometimes do? It's kind of like a sign of affection, isn't it? Well, you might be able to relate to this, you might not be able to relate to this, but back in military experience, guys would show affection to each other through digging each other and all that kind of stuff. I know there are some parts of the world where guys show affection by holding hands, skipping down the road together. In military culture, that was just how guys show affection. I trust you. I think much of you. This will be demonstrated through me mocking you or through me inflicting pain on you. I'm not quite sure the rationale behind this. It's just kind of how it was. All right. Some people might be able to relate. I'm sure that many people won't, but it's just how things were back then. All right. So we have a rational experience and we get to stop and say, right, okay, I could judge this person right now. I can interpret this situation in a way. This guy's really come out to inflict pain on me, or it's just a sign of affection. Would I do the same to him if I was in his shoes? Yes, okay, I would have done the same thing if I was in his shoes. All right, why? Because we were friends. All right, because we admired and respected each other. We trust each other. All right, that's just guys, friends, having little practical jokes with each other. Painful practical jokes, but practical jokes nonetheless. Right? Our volitional experience, how we choose. Spiritual experience. All right, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. This. All right. It's what's going on right in our hearts, in our core. You know, when we start thinking about what is we actually need, what do we actually need from people? What do we actually need from life? There's one thing, on a rational level, a rational experience, we'll rationally kind of come up with conclusions, make decisions about what we want. You know, we want a faster car, we want more relationships in our life, we want to be more popular, we want to be liked, we want a promotion, we want this, we want the next thing. There's lots of stuff that we want, but our wants are very different from our needs. All right. So if I was to, say to you or ask you right now, okay, more money. Would you like more money in your bank account? Yes or no? But today, where you're at in life right now, do you need more money? Right now, today, do you need more money? Can you see the difference between a want and a need? A want is something that nice to have, but a need is a necessity. It's a must-have. Okay, how about stronger, healthier social connections? Do you want? Yes. Do you need? Probably, maybe. It depends how many healthy relationships you have. If you have no one in your life that you can speak to, you're going to most likely be in a place of despair, complete relational destituteness, in which case, yes, you need. Right? So taking away the context then, how about connection? Just healthy human connection. Is this something that you want, or is it something that we actually need? We're human beings. We're functioning, relational, social beings. Without healthy, meaningful connection, our lives serve no meaningful purpose. All right? How about relational security? Having at least one other person in the world, at least one other person in the world who you can go to and confide in. One person that you can just be yourself around. Right? Why are so many people on this world stage advocating superficiality and falseness, prancing around trying to be someone that they're not? Is it because they have relational connectedness, or is it because they're still desperately trying to get it by whatever means necessary? Right? What I'm saying here is that inside of us, we're either going to view ourselves as being complete or as having a void, as having a deficit. And if we perceive ourselves as having this internal deficit, well, this internal deficit will serve as a very, very powerful motivator in our life, for better or for worse. All right? For better or for worse. So when we're talking about our spiritual experience, some people might better relate to this as us talking about what's actually going on inside of our hearts. Because in the same way the human mind is different from the human brain, our heart, spiritual experience, is different from our heart organ that pumps blood around the body. Right? But this will be the first time that some people have even considered this notion. Right? It's kind of like our conscience. Where does the conscience live? Does it live in your finger? Does it live in your... Is conscience like a rational thing? Right? Come on. We know the difference between good and bad. We know the difference between good and evil. We know that killing people is not good. All right? We know that raping people is not good. We know that stealing from people is not good. But yet, why are the prisons full? I guess some people become conditioned to their way of thinking. Right? Some people become very, very desperate in life to meet some sort of internal void, or fill this internal void that they have. So I'd like to build on this teaching, if I may. All right, just to get you looking at our heart from a slightly different perspective. Right? I want you to evaluate your own heart here first and foremost, but then I just want you to become slightly more reflective over how it is that you might experience other people when you're interacting with them. Have you ever kind of had a conversation with someone who's just open? You know, you kind of say hi to someone, and you say, "Hi, great to see you. How are you? Tell me what's going on in your life." So this person's interested in you. This person's fascinated in hearing about you. So, so we naturally open up and we tell people some stuff about us. Right? But then there's other types of people where we say, "Hi, how are you doing?" And they'll, "Yeah, fine." And a person's closed. Whether a person's open or whether a person is closed is going to be reflective of the condition of their heart, right? Their heart. So I want to talk about 4 different types of soil here. Now this is like an age-old teaching. Might even be a little bit biblical, I think. I've been given feedback in the past. So when we're talking about the conditions of our heart, we're talking about how open and receptive we are to experiencing people, all right, to new ideas, to growth. If we're closed, we're hard, all right? When we're closed, we're not interested, we're not fascinated, we don't have time for people. But when we're open because we don't have this internal deficit that's driving us, right? So talking about hearts, we're talking about soil types. And as we talk about soil types, the soil represents the heart of the culture that you create. The culture that you create. We're coming back to personal cultures all over again. There's panic culture. I'm not getting what I want. I don't know if I can get what I want. The awareness culture. Oh, okay. So when I'm in this awareness culture, that's fine. I'm very much aware of myself. Some people could take that to the extreme and become obsessed within themselves. Some people do. Then we have this power zone, this power culture, which is essentially about us no longer needing anything from anyone. All right? Because our internal void or deficit has been filled, or we've found a strategy for fulfilling this. So you're asking the question, well, how do I fill this? I've already told you. We fill this void by literally working against our own grain, by undermining our own void and working hard to intentionally become fascinated and interested in other people. We take our eyes off and away from ourselves and direct them towards others. Does this require discipline? You betcha. All right. See, when you're not feeling kind of okay within yourself, right, it will take everything that you have to transfix your focus onto another person and ask them how they're doing. Right? Say, for example, you are mourning or going through loss. You're going through heartache or hurt or something like this. You've just been rejected. You're going to be experiencing a huge deficit right now. All right? It's a relational deficit. So how do you bridge that gap? How can you start to fill this void? By asking other people how they are and being genuinely interested enough to listen and take time to understand. How are you? Because whilst we sometimes hurt, guess what? Other people sometimes also hurt. It's kind of like when we focus on other people's issues, other people's hurts or deficits or problems. I'm just talking about hurts here, but we could be talking about successes or accomplishments. Just using this as an example. When we focus on understanding other people, our needs become less relevant. We start to realize, wow, I'm actually capable of being really valuable for people here. All right, it can reach us and lead us to the point in life where our primary focus is on other people all of the time. Right? I'm going to come on to this teaching in a minute, but you know what I've learned to do over the last decade or so is the only time I'll ever think about me, the only time I ever think about kind of my circumstances, my situation, is when I'm by myself. All right, that's it. When I'm in the company of other people get my full undivided attention all of the time. Because I understand that when I'm interacting with other people, if my attention is on me, then other people aren't going to find any value in me. And if other people aren't finding any value in me, they're not going to want anything to do with me, because all I'm talking about is me. It's called self-obsession. It's called self-obsession. All right? So how do we overcome our own internal perceived deficits? Well, we don't. All right? We just simply redirect our focus onto the good that we can be for other people. All right? In time, our relational voids just disappear. They do. Because we fill our lives with more people who appreciate us. Which means we don't have to be reliant on just one or two people who meet our needs. Right? We have a whole lot of people who actually want to spend time with us because they find us fascinating, they find us interesting, because we are fundamentally interested and fascinated in them. It's kind of like a counterculture way of doing life. Right? I could be standing here saying, oh, it's about your communications. Master these communication skills and be confident. There's a lot of jippos out there promoting all this nonsense. But I'm saying if you want to revolutionize your relationships, all right, just be interested in people. Be fascinated by people. There ain't no getting away from this. All right, ask people questions about them and their experience. So we need to understand ground conditions. Because the soil, our heart type, represents the culture that we create. A culture of us being fascinated in people. We're creating a culture that people want to be around, or we're creating a culture that people don't want to be around. Hard ground. There's a story, right, that kind of helps us to kind of understand all this. There's a farmer. A farmer's kind of carrying a pouch full of seed, and he goes out into his kind of fields. And he's kind of scattering his seed all over the place, just willy-nilly. He's not kind of doing this with any real rhyme or reason. So some of the seed he scatters falls onto hard ground. Some of it falls onto thorny ground. Some of the seeds fall onto rocky ground. And some of the seed falls onto cultivated soil. So the seeds that fall onto hard ground, the seeds just kind of sit there. And then the birds come along and eat them. And they go away. So essentially the seeds don't have the opportunity to put down roots and grow. The seeds that fall on thorny ground will kind of take root and they'll grow up to a degree, but the thorns ultimately squeeze the life out of the plant that grows, because that's what thorns and thistles and weeds do. All right. Rocky ground, the seed might kind of manage to get in between a couple of rocks and it might grow a little bit, but as soon as the sun comes out and we have a prolonged dry season, lack of rain, whatever, then whatever it was that grew from the seed will just kind of shrivel up and die because the roots aren't down deep because there's so many rocks and boulders. Then we have cultivated soil, and the seed lands in cultivated soil, roots go down, and then from this grows a harvest. What are we talking about here? We're talking about the effort that I'm making with you, and also the effort that you go on to make with other people. Because if you want to revolutionize your social skills, my friend, you're going to have to make an effort with people. All right? There's no skills. All right? There's no kind of magic formula to this. So from me to you, I'm here, I'm the farmer. I'm throwing seeds in your direction. I'm offering a few ideas, a few hints, a few tips, making a few suggestions about things you want to think about. I'm throwing seed. But your heart is going to be open or it's going to be closed. And if it's closed, you're hard ground. That's the condition of your heart, which means that the seed's kind of bouncing off you, sitting there, and it'll come to nothing because you're not letting these ideas penetrate you. Thorny ground. There's more to do with the company that you keep. You want to improve the quality of your relationships. Well, we've got to look at the relationships that you're currently clinging on to. Say, for example, you want to improve the quality of your life. You want to find a really loving, caring spouse, but you keep company with a bunch of gun-ho, attitude-driven, self-righteous, whatever. Well, it's going to cost you. Right? Sometimes if we want more in our lives, we've got to first release that which we've been clinging on to for years. Right? I realised in the military, one of the reasons why I left the army was because I wanted to meet a long-term partner, wanted to get married and someday start a family. And I realised that military culture wasn't going to enable me to do that, not to the degree that I wanted to. Why? Because in the military, we would spend anything up to 6-9 months of the year traveling around the world away from home. And that was certainly not something that I wanted to do. So being in the military was fine when I was young, but I grew out of it. Likewise, you want to develop some really healthy relationships. Well, if there's some unhealthy relationships you're clinging on to, you might actually have to terminate them. I'm not saying kill them, I'm saying end the relationships so you can create space in your life for some new, better relationships. And again, you can't just sit back and wait for them to come because you've taken an online training course. You might actually have to get out there, go and sit in Starbucks and people watch and ask some strangers some questions, or go and join a club or a new social group, or do whatever you need to do. There's no shortage of people groups out there. All right, go to the local mosque, go to the local church, go to your local political group. It doesn't make any difference, right? People are just people the world throughout, all right? And ask people questions about themselves, all right? If you want better than what you have, you might have to release what you have to create room for something better. Make sense? Thorny ground. If you surround yourself with thistles, the thistles are going to squeeze the life out of you, and there's no getting away from that. So then we have rocky ground. Rocky ground is where the farmer throws some seed. I'm throwing some ideas here, and you catch them. See, yes, I agree with that. Yes, I agree with that. Yes, that makes sense on a rational level. But kind of beneath the surface, you've got beliefs, you've got worldviews. Some of these things you're just not willing to release just yet because you're quite convinced that you're right in many areas. Well, so long as you're clinging on to you being right, you might just have to compromise these seeds growing into something more life-giving other people might find more value in. Just saying, which means that you might catch some of what I'm cooking, and you might see a little bit of growth, but when challenge comes your way, when difficulties of life come along, you go back to your roots, which is the boulders, it's the beliefs, it's the old world views and philosophies that you've carried with you for anything up to an entire lifetime. And then there are those individuals who are ready, right? The reason why this resonates with me is, when was it, 13, 14 years ago, I'd reached the point in my life where I was, oh no, my whole old way of doing things, I'm dead to. My preferences, my perspectives, I am done with me. It's kind of like some of us will reach this stage in life where we just kind of get to the end of our tether, where we're so sick and tired of the outcomes that we're generating. And this is us going back to thinking about outputs and outcomes. We look at our outcomes. Are we getting what we want? Are we getting what we really want? If the answer is yes, we're not going to have a problem. If the answer is no, I am not getting what I want. If you're saying, no, I am not getting what I want, I do not have the depth of relationships in my life that I really, really crave, then there's a pretty good chance you're going to be here and you're going to be catching what I'm cooking, and the seeds that I'm sowing are going to be taking root in your life. And my friend, if that's the case, you can expect, not today, not tomorrow, but perhaps in the months and years to follow, to reap an absolute harvest when you take on board these ideas, build them into your life, and invest into your relationships as I am guiding you.